that, getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Xtreme Motorsports Ferrari Road Oval Challenge. This is round number 5 of the season, coming to you tonight from IRP. My name is Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Dylan Coyle. Joshua Wilkie is our producer for tonight's broadcast. Well, Dylan, it's been a little while since we were back here in the booth for an FROC race. The last time was all the way back at Barber for round number 2. Here, however, we are at a complete completely different racetrack. Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, a kind of flat, slightly banked, very historic oval. Even though it's just a stone throws away from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, my version of heaven on earth, this place still has a special place in my heart and some pretty good history to go along with it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is a pleasure to be back on the airwaves with you, my friend. It has been quite a bit. What, 6 weeks, something like that? That's kind of wild. But how many series do you get to go from Sebring to Barber to Michigan to Le Mans and then IRP in a Ferrari GT3 machine? I would say one, and it's the FROC series that we are working with right now. Excited for this race to get going here. Looks like we've got a relatively, I'd say, a relatively small field of drivers on a small racetrack, so there's still going to be a lot of action. 12 drivers currently in this practice session before we get wound up for qualifying. Should be, what, 4 laps of qualifying. I think they might take that 15-minute timer and shorten it quite a bit.
Yes, I think we will have a slightly shorter qualifying session, but nonetheless going to have the exact same 2 30-minute long heat race format that we have had all season long. Off the back of Le Mans 1 week ago, completely different than this racetrack. We have visited a wide variety of circuits thus far this season, a smorgasbord, if you would. We've been to Sebring, Barber, Michigan, Le Mans. Yeah, I'm breaking out the thesaurus for this show here. I've had to clang my 3 brain cells together to form that thought. Don't worry, folks, it's never going to happen again. Moving off now into qualifying. Before I think we get some lap times on the board, though, we may want to take a quick gander at the championship points as we head off into this latest round of the championship. Only going to have 6 more races left to go starting right now, so these drivers do have to worry about those championship points somewhat. And here's how it looks right now. Mike Dam was able to grab only his 2nd win last time out in race number 1 at Le Mans. That was the first time since he had visited victory lane since race number 1 at Sebring all the way at the start of the season. Michelle Squire is slotted in P2 at 172 points as her current tally, and we're only 10 points behind hers. Kevin Carlisle with John Kroom and Isla Speaker rounding out your top 5 in the pro category. Gotta take a look now at the AM class, where Chester Guidry has been dominant. Jeff Jacobs is the only break in that dominance as he's been able to get 2 wins. Guidry, meanwhile, has cleared the rest of the board, currently sitting at 6 wins up to this point in the championship. Aaron Sunday is slotted in 3rd, Casey Knight in 4th, with Mike Mann, Neil Weston, and Jimbo Pfeiffer completing your 7 cars class in the AM category. And now we're going to take a look at the silver class, where Jake Mackey holds on to the points lead over there. Bobby Childs is slotted in 2nd, Sean Mulholland in 3rd, with Tom Jenkins and Robert Brist completing your 5 drivers class in the silver category. And now we can switch off into qualifying. Already getting some lap times set on the board on this track, where these racers are going to be hauling the mail, Dylan.
Oh, yeah. They're going to make some fast lap times. And actually, I'll be quite honest with you. These lap times, until Chester Guidry just hit a 28.93, they've been slower than some of the top times that we had seen in practice. Might have needed a couple laps to get these tires warmed up, but still Guidry is way in front of most of the field, but kind of hits that outside wall on the exit of turn 4. I got to be honest, I'm not used to seeing any of these GT3 machines, those side mirrors up against safer barriers. It's a weird look.
Yeah, it is a little bit, I wouldn't necessarily say disturbing, but there's a little bit of like uncanny valley territory whenever we see a road course car running on an oval. Kind of had that same experience at Michigan a couple of weeks ago, and the absolute certified banger that race was. Expecting another good one here as Chester Guidry sitting atop of the pole at the moment. The driver in the AM category in that number 1 car, currently number 1 here in qualifying, and holds on to a comfortable gap to himself and Jeff Jacobs, who's slotted in 5th currently. I was just going to say on that 3rd row with Casey Knight, but Sean Mulholland, top of the racers in the silver category, was able to jump in front there. Still waiting for the likes of Ryan Cobb, Keith Stein, and Jake Mackey to set a time, and I wonder if they have been out there on the racetrack for qualifying or not. This track does feel like one where you can very easily end up in the fence with the low banks here.
Yeah, 100%. And it seems like Jake Mackey is the only driver yet to complete his 4 qualifying laps. So we're on board with him right now. Should be on lap number 2. Not sure if this is 2 of his 4 or this is his first after the out lap, but I think it is his second of 4. Yeah, this track is a little bit weird. You kind of want to ride closer to either the middle groove or up against the wall. It helps in traffic if you're trying to conserve some of the tire wear, and I genuinely don't know what to expect when it comes to tire conservation or anything to do with fuel. Obviously, these cars have a lot of aerodynamic prowess compared to stock cars and stock trucks that race here, so I'm unsure what to expect.
Yeah, this is going to be a venture off into the unknown for these racers for sure. Michigan was a bit of a head scratcher for the racers heading into it. There's a little bit of worry about whether or not there would be some pit stops in the midst of all that, as Ryan Cobb learning the barriers of turn number 3 and 4 the hard way. I have a feeling that we're going to have our own version of the Darlington stripe here at IRP. I don't know. Should we call it the ERP chirps against the wall? That sounds. It sounds like that sounds like a very odd sports mascot.
Listen, the only odd sports mascot we're allowed to have is Gritty, and that's all. All right.
Amen.
Amen to that. Go Birds. Missed that, Ron. I missed that. But yeah, I think we are still getting some more drivers. Ryan Cobb is now starting some qualifying laps. So more drivers are joining the fray tonight, and that is something we like to see, or at least joining the drivers who have qualified so far. All eyes on Ryan Cobb right now.
Yeah, so Ryan Cobb, my old pal in race control, running out there on the circuit. He's had some pretty good results throughout this season, but has taken a couple of weeks off. But he's back now running in P11 as he comes across the line. Will it be an improvement from him on his previous lap time? It will in the time, and it will in the spot. He jumps up to P3 of those pro racers as P5 overall. But we have still got ourselves an AM overall pole sitter. All throughout this season here, Dylan, we have had pro pole sitters overall. It's pretty much just been Mike Dam running the board as he's grabbed every single pole position thus far this season. But Chester Guidry looks like he has found his footing here at IRP quite well. I think the only person that can maybe challenge him is Ryan Cobb, who's still setting in some heaters.
Yeah, 100%. And you'll still see some heaters being laid down. Now, oh, that's a hard hit into that outside wall. Something to note, especially, we talk about this when it comes to road course racing, but especially on short tracks, when the clouds come over the track, when the sun gets blocked, the track temperature goes down. Right now, it's just over 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The lower that track temperature is, the better it will be for these drivers over the course of 4 laps to set a fast qualifying time. It doesn't take as much energy out. It doesn't take as much rubber, and it doesn't lay on the track as much. So you're able to conserve more tire life and more grip over the course of a run, whether it's in qualifying or in race shape. Obviously, there are limits to that. If it's very cold, then maybe the tires are not going to be gripping at all. But if it's very hot, the inverse, they're going to be melting off. So you want that very even keel spot. I think that's exactly what that 80 degree Fahrenheit is around for the drivers that just qualified.
And I will say one worry that we will have to worry about here in this event is the prospect of the pit stops. We have seen all throughout the season the strategy has completely turned many of these races on their heads, most certainly at Michigan, the only other oval from this season, where we had some pretty wild moments as we headed down pit lane. May have to worry about that here today, but nonetheless, the checkered flag out in qualifying. Everybody's gotten their times taken care of, and we'll be able to switch off into that race here in just a couple of moments time. Got to worry about the pit stops, got to worry about the changing in track conditions, but everybody just wants to get through this race clean and try and get some good results as we get to the end of this championship. But let's get the evening rolling by taking a look at the first starting grid of the night. It's got to be Chester Guidry starting this race from the pole position. Mike Dam is set to join him on the front row. It's going to be Ryan Cobb starting in a brilliant P3 alongside Michelle Squire in the number 75 car in 4th. Sean Mulholland will be your silver pole sitter starting this race race in 5th next to Joe Nagy in 6th. Jake Mackey will be in 7th, Jeff Jacobs in 8th. Casey Knight will start this race in 9th with Neil Weston completing our top 10.
Aaron Sunday and Keith Stein at 11th and 12th. You couldn't have finished it, Ron?
See, I want to give equal... I want to spread things out somewhat. Oh, there we go. Oh, that was fantastic.
Oh, man.
Well,
you know, I always love to see if, you know, with limited fields, if, you know, sometimes you have those first to 10th place drivers in qualifying that get announced by the first commentator, and then the second commentator takes the rest, and then it goes back 21st and onwards. But when you have 2 drivers at the end in 11th and 12th, it's always funny to see if it still happens.
Oh, see, okay, I'm gonna share a little kind of broadcasting tidbit. So one of our esteemed SMB colleagues, Howie Burrows, and I do a Formula Ford broadcast. We love Howie, absolutely fantastic person to work with. We do a Formula Ford show together, and usually, it being an official broadcast, there are some fields where it's a little bit on the lower end, and they'll just give me the final 2 starters, and I will try and put as much enthusiasm and effort as I possibly can into announcing those final 2 starters. That's always a nice little game for me to play. But these racers, I think they're gonna have a fun game here. Maybe a terrifying one though, because this track can be unforgiving.
I feel like you're judging me for not putting in the energy required for 11th and 12th. I'm just going to let that slide for now, Ron.
Gotta have some energy drinks. Get amped up.
You know, yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And we are just half a lap away. We haven't really done 2 pace laps at all in this series, but because it's a short track, that's exactly what we're doing. Ron, let's get ready to go racing.
Yeah, let's get ready to rumble here at IRP. Gonna be a fun one, only the 2nd oval from this season, and a completely different case to what we had at Michigan just a few weeks ago. That pace car down pit lane, Chester Guiderian and pole sitter here in this race as a green flag is out. The drivers are on their way, and we are racing here at IRP.
Immediately you saw right there that lower groove. It's got way less banking than the middle and the upper grooves here. So yes, you will save some time. You just won't get the speed.
Yeah, so everybody trying to keep the momentum rolling, maybe rubber in the track somewhat. Let's see what sort of experimentation we have with the lines. Who's going to be able to try and jump to the high side the first to keep that momentum rolling, and who's going to be shuffling around this track and changing colors like a chameleon throughout. Looking at a fantastic fight between Michelle Squire and Mike Dam. That's a battle for the pro lead at the moment. P2 and 3 overall. Chester Guidry, your M-class driver, still leads this race overall. Looks like Ryan Cobb has dipped back in tow as they have single fouled out right in front with Squire in front of Dam.
Yeah, Squirick is the only driver besides Jake Mackey to put in a time within the 21-second range in the opening few laps of this race. Oh no! Speak of Jake Mackey, is that him who just, yes, I think it might have been somebody else. Was it Jacobs? Could not quite tell.
I think that was actually Joe Nagy in the 37 car.
Jacobs, Jake, Joe.
Yeah, it works, kind of, sort of, not really. But he drops down to P11. That is a huge moment for him. But we keep it green, a slight top of the wall, so I can imagine the rear arrow is very disturbed on that race car. But, you know, so am I, and I make it work.
What does that mean? Anyway, let's see what happened. Okay, so check this out. Nagy is trying to make it work on that bottom groove. Because of that, the tires are probably he's asking a little bit more of the tires through 3 and 4. Gets down, has those left sides de-wedged a little bit, kind of in between both that lower and middle groove. So already he's asking a lot from the car and these tires. Gets way down to the lower line, not as much grip right there. So it's a good way to show just 2 laps. A lot can change and a lot can happen. That is the highest going into turn 1 right there that he has entered that corner since we had been following along on that replay. So carried a little bbit too much speed, has too much damage. That's practically race over for him in currently 11th place.
Bad time, and gotta say as well, as he was sawing at the wheel to try and get that car going in a straight line once again, he actually hit the pit lane speed limiter button. I saw that pop up on the wheel. Nonetheless, though, here we go, side by side, battling up at the front between Chester Guidry and Michelle Squirick, as her and Dam currently tied for the fastest lap. Squirick not able to jump into that spot, but here comes Dam. Thinks about heading downtown into 3 and 4. They're nearly gonna be 3 wide as they head their way out of 4. Holy cow, these racers giving us one heck of a battle to talk about up at the front of the field. A battle for the top spot in pro, a battle for the top spot overall too. These racers are really gonna crank that wick up more and more as we get farther along, and they get comfortable around this racetrack too. That's hopping the berm big time for Guidry, and Squire gonna fight back once again.
Oh man, that is a really tough move to make if you're Squirick, to try and get it to work without a slide job on that lower groove. Trying it again, pitched down to the bottom by Chester Guidry. Squirick closer, but still no cigar. Has to try and send it in there on one of these corner entries if she wants to get the move done.
And right as I said that these racers were going to turn up the wick as it got more comfortable for these racers to run at the edge of control. We've seen it already. Chester Guidry has had to shake off a lot of challenges from the cars right behind. Michelle Squire kind of has to worry about 2 things at once. Not only have to worry about getting a move done on Chester Guidry to jump into the race lead, they also got Mike Dam right in tow. Dam looking to try and stake claim on this season championship as Michelle Squire, who did miss out on the race at Barber back in round number 2 of this season. She's looking to bounce back and maybe have a last lap lunge, so to speak, for the season title.
Last lap lunge. Good alliteration right there. Very solid. You know, watching this top 4. What'd you say?
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
They do. They absolutely do. They absolutely do. Reminder, 11th and 12th. So the top 4 are definitely starting to run away with this, but you know, Sean Mulholland is currently entrenched in kind of a lonely period with drivers behind him fighting very hard for 6th, 7th, and 8th. Casey Knight, Neil Weston, Jeff Jacobs, those 3 you see back there. And I think, yeah, is that a car that's a lap down? I think is that Joe Nagy involved there?
Looking through, I don't believe that is Nagy. Nagy in the white car. That may be Mackie.
Aaron Sunday actually was the one I was missing from that group, I believe. I'm not sure quite right, but these drivers are starting to really turn up the wick. And of course, we should get yellow flags if there is a major incident with a car turned around facing the other direction. But it is interesting. These drivers fighting in the way they are as Knight gets up into the wall, and getting away is Neil Weston there. With these drivers fighting, they're around 9 seconds behind the leaders. We're 6 minutes into this race. Oh, a big move from Jake Mackey to try and make it work on the outside. Knight gave the space, and right in front, look at this, 3 wide almost. Great racing here at IRP. We might have some traffic. The top 4 all entrenched in a battle. All these drivers at the back end of the top 10 entrenched in a battle as well.
Yes, as we continue to see these racers fight, they're turning up the wick. They're getting a bit more aggressive as we get farther along, which is certainly good from our perspective here in the broadcast booth. Maybe not ideal for these racers on the road. They're going to be feeling the burn as we get closer and closer to that halfway mark, as contact made in the battle with Guidry and Squirick, and that's nearly going to send Guidry up into the fence. He still holds on to that race lead, though, in the number 1 car, as Michelle Squirick really going to slow herself up. Look at Mike Dam on the high side. He's trying to make something work. Look at him in that red and black, very fitting with the Ferrari colors on the Ferrari. But right now he's got the Halloween jack-o'-lantern car and the Christmas tree right in front, and he's trying to win at the battle of the holidays as they continue to go side by side, this time heading their way out 2 onto the back straightaway. Guidry with the wiggle. That may be Squirick's best shot.
Hollow thanks, miss. is the term we're looking for, because that's exactly what we're seeing right here. A battle of the three holidays with the way that these liveries are set up. Squirick still unable to get it to work on corner entry, but equaled with Guidry mid-corner right there. All this is doing is allowing Dam to conserve more energy in those tires for a later lunge in this race. Very close between Squirick and Guidry right there. Squirick going to send it in. Yes, slide job works, but a swap back. Oh, Squirick gets the lead, but now Guidry down on the bottom. Can't make it work. What a move.
Yeah, what a fight back there from Michelle Squirick to jump her way up in front. She had been battling for so long to try and jump into that spot. She finally makes it work. I wonder what sort of wear has been put on that number 75 car as a result as we take a look at the dive. Guidry, another wiggle on turn entry. I think he's had some troubles just trying to get that car wheeled up, maybe a little bit of rear locking potentially, but either way, Michelle Squirick fighting back big time and jumping into that top spot for the first time in this race. Guidry gave it everything, but Michelle Squirick seemed to be an indomitable force.
I mean, I'll tell you what, Squirick was setting up to make that move for a number of laps, and it was, I mean, she was right there in hand with Guidry, and it just allowed it to, the move was on from there. If you were able to get alongside, equal footing heading into the corner, and you're on the inside, you should be able to just commit to the slide job and get the move done. Yes, there was a bit of a opportunity to get the move back the other way. Did not happen. Now we see another 4-car battle right here. Look how low Jeff Jacobs got on the apron and almost got a speed burst from it.
Oh, look at Jeff Jacobs all over the racetrack. Yeah, I think I could see a little bit of tightness, a little bit of looseness. It's like the old 2014 Ferrari F1 car where it would understeer and oversteer at the exact same time. It looked like that car was a handful.
Yes, the 2014 Ferrari F1 car is the only Ferrari F1 car that has had handling issues. Yes.
Yeah, that...
No comment.
Not touching that one. Don't want to get. We want to cover these Ferraris without being blacklisted from ever visiting Maranello. Here's a battle going on right now between Jeff Jacobs and Aaron Sunday. This is gonna be a nice little scrap between these racers. Kind of a pack of 3 in that AM category as Casey Knight, Jeff Jacobs, and Aaron Sunday all battling, and some pretty nice camera shots, some nice camera angles that we've got here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. If you're enjoying the show, happy to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on some of these amazing camera angles, as we don't miss out on some of the battles too, because this battle right towards the tail end of AM is really starting to heat up.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you like this race, there's going to be a lot more to come tonight, just in a couple hours. What, an hour and a half? We've got some more racing action on Slow Motion Broadcasting's network, and I believe you're going to be running off to that, Ron, as well as our Lord and Savior and producer Joshua Wilkie. So oh, look at that. What a move down to the grass. I mean, my goodness. Jeff Jacobs, what are you doing?
Yeah, Jeff is running all over the place at the moment. Went from turning that car into a lawnmower into turning it into a snowplow. Hits that fence on the outside, knocks down the safer barrier, and he's going to come down pit lane as well. Probably with some damage on that race car, understandably so, considering that sickening collision into that outside wall. And now we have to worry about the pit stops here. I talked about it right before we got this race up and rolling. I think there's a lot of truth said, and just the pit entry here at IRP is a little bit terrifying.
Yeah, it is a very difficult pit entrance to get to because it happens to be on the exit, or I should say the entry to turn 3, and you really have to get that car wound down to be able to go down pit road in the appropriate amount of time. And then pit exit is also quite dangerous because it shoots you right back out onto the racing surface, as we saw right then and there. We'll get the replay here on board with Jeff Jacobs, who is going down to pit road, kind of clips that left side with the grass, the bumps and the bounces, the suspension crying for dear life right there. But a good job from the driver of the 38 machine.
Golly, the bumps. I felt back pain just looking at that. That is absolutely unbelievable. Chester Guidry not having to worry about that currently as he's slotted in P2, albeit the gap has grown up towards the front, really. Michelle Squire starting to drive off into the sunset. Mike Dam really starting to apply some pressure to Guidry here as well. Gonna see who can battle it out the hardest first. It's about 8 tenths of a second between Squire and Guidry, so the 2 tenths between Guidry and Dam are the ones that we're keeping our eyes on as well, along with the battling still going on in the AM category. Down one car after the moment for Jeff Jacobs a few moments ago, but it's now Casey Knight and Aaron Sunday currently duking it out for 8th and 9th.
Yeah, and this battle has been raging on, and there's a 5th driver in here. I think one of them is Jeff Jacobs, who is a lap down, but it does appear to be now the traffic for the lead of this race. Chester Guidry trying to make it through, as well as Michelle Squirick. That really helps Squirick right there to get through the traffic quickly. But this is that interconnectivity that you're kind of seeing between everybody involved in this short track race. A lot of cloud coverage, by the way. We've seen the track temperature drop 2 degrees in the last 3 minutes or so. And if they're catching up to, why do we have the wipers on right now? If they're catching up to the pack right now, they're 13 minutes into this race, well, we're going to see drivers catching up again with just 2 minutes remaining.
So I'm looking on pit lane. Ryan Cobb has come down pit lane from 3rd in the pro category. So that is a fascinating decision for him in the number 51 machine. While seeing him drop down a little bit, so I think he's got a very good short run car. The long run speed may not be ideal, so he may be hoping for a yellow in the second half of this race. There could have potentially been a little bit of contact as we take a look. This is actually his pit entry. My apologies, as we see him head his way off through there. Look at the bumps. That car, it's not even a Ferrari challenge machine at that point. It is pretty much just a bucking Bronco.
Yeah, 100%. And that is not a Bronco that I would like to be a part of in that moment. Painful, very painful looking. Aaron Sunday right now, P8. We've seen 3 drivers have to make that dive down to pit lane, I guess, for these Ferraris. Even though it's IRP, I don't know if we've ever referred to it as pit lane except when the Road to Indy has come here in the past. So let's still call it pit lane. It's strange calling it that, though. It will not lie.
Yeah, it is a little bit off. Like, the pits and pit lane, I feel like, are 2 different ideas in my own head. It's
yes.
it's like what I always like to call the aroma spectrum of when something turns from an aroma to a scent to a smell to an odor. There is a distinct category for all 3 of them.
Yeah, no, you're right. Aroma is a little bit more pleasing to the nostrils, while a smell is just a smell. It's that in between. An odor is something you do not want to smell.
Yeah, and odor, when I think of odor, I get bad flashbacks of showing up to Pocono Raceway a week after the NASCAR races, going there for a race myself, and they hadn't cleaned out the porta potties. But I apologize to anybody who was eating during this broadcast, by the way. But regardless,
we could have gone with aroma. I've got a candle warmer right now with Christmas tree scents. That's a nice aroma. You could have talked about that, but you did not. So Sean Mulholland, by the way, going down pit lane just past the halfway point of this race. Let's get this train back on the tracks, Ron.
You asked me why? The answer is why not. Yeah, Mulholland making that call to come down pit lane. So Jake Mackey going to inherit that class lead as we look at a battle here with Aaron Sunday and Casey Knight duking it out. That's now into turn number 1 and 2, where Aaron Sunday has been able to jump in front and hold on to that P6 spot. So that's both a battle for position overall and a battle for class position as well. And we do have to keep in mind as we get into the second half, the field invert. Now, I remember this season started off with being a half field invert, so I guess P6 would be the spot that we'd be looking for. So that Aaron Sunday and Casey Knight battle does have a whole lot riding on it.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, I feel like with fewer drivers in this race, it makes it ever so more important each specific position, because just a few positions up is a few additional points, but there's not many points to gain. There's not many points to lose. But if you can continue rising up the field, everything matters, because we are starting to really wind down on this season right now as we see Mike Dam going down pit lane. So I guess this is a good question I've got that seems to be answered. Most drivers are pitting in this race. Is it for tires? Because on fuel, I would imagine these drivers can make it, but if we look at some of the last lap times, there's not much of a drop off. I guess the fuel. I'm surprised that they wouldn't be able to make it, but I'm unsure. I'm still unsure the strategy here at play. It's such a unique combination of track and car that we're in unseen territory.
And I will say, with the normal fuel tanks here in these Ferrari Challenge cars, they were able to make it throughout these full 30-minute long races. The fuel tanks and the size of them was actually restricted for this race. That's the reason why we have had pit stops forced in this event, as Michelle Squire has now come down pit lane from the lead in pro, and the race lead as a result too as well. There she is, trundling her way down pit lane in the number 75 car. A rather lengthy pit lane here at IRP. It takes up a bulk of the racetrack, but let's see what Michelle Squire can do. Stopped in the pit stall, gonna leave after only 2/10 more than Mike Dam. That may be enough to cause a swapperoo between those racers. Let's see what Squire can do on this lap, whether or not she'll be able to get back into the groove, or whether or not she's been able to play this out perfectly. I think Mike Dam has lost out on boatload of time, as Chester Guidry has now come down pit lane from the inherited race lead, currently slotted in P2 in that AM category, as your silver class leader of Jake Mackey has actually jumped into that top spot. There he is, out and rolling. I think Michelle Squire will be able to once again jump in front of Guidry.
Yep, and it's just been a really solid race right here for Squirek as Sunday comes out of pit lane ever so carefully, as there is a pack of drivers in a fight there. Something to remember, even though it's strange and there's 12 drivers in this race, the top 10 will get that invert. So the winner of this race right now would be Squirek, would start in 10th for race number 2, which really makes 11th place, 12th place hurt even more. Keystein hasn't run a lap. Joe Nagy is most likely going to be starting, the only driver not inverted. That's rough. That's difficult. As Squirek, we see on that replay, getting right out in front of Guidry. Takes Guidry a little bit to get wound up and going. Squirek already down the backstretch by the time Guidry is up to speed out of turn 2.
Yeah, so Michelle Squire has really staked her claim on this race, as Mike Dam and Chester Guidry still continue to fight. Oh, look at that. A huge sideways snap from Mike Dam as he headed his way into 1 and 2. He has a tank slapper into the outside wall. Now got to try and wiggle that car around to see if there's any sort of damage. Seeing some pit stops farther up the road. That's Neil Weston making the call to come down pit lane. That was a sledgehammer shot into the wall. Overcorrection. Got to worry about some suspension damage on that car of Mike Dam, because that was a pretty big slap against the fence.
Yeah, oh boy, that was a massive tank slapper right there. Could have been a lot worse, but still not a moment you want to have in the later goings of this race, as Jake Mackey is out of pit lane. Neil Weston is exiting pit lane right here. Let's see, so 39 miles per hour, I believe that says on that in-car dashboard right there. Up to speed, coming out on the apron. It goes through those blue cones and is back up to speed. You see that closing right there. That is a long amount of the lap to have to wait to get up to full speed. I mean, you're pretty much in the middle of 3 and 4 once you're actually at racing speed coming out of the pits.
Yeah, and this is the shortest racetrack that we are visiting all season long here by a rather significant margin, as Aaron Sunday making another call to come down pit lane. This is definitely not intentional. You can see rather short on the initial pit stop. 8 seconds and 8 seconds alone stopped in the pit stall, which is quite a lot shorter than everybody else. I think the only racer that you can compare it to is Jake Mackey, but even then, he came into the pits a whole lot later. So Sunday coming in 2.8 seconds in the pit stall, quick splash and dash, and that's really going to gut his race, as one driver's really been able to make an undercut work, as Jeff Jacobs. He's jumped his way up to 8th. 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 8th.
Yeah, 100%. It's an excellent recovery for Jeff Jacobs and his race. If I recall, he was either the first or the second driver to have to come down pit lane. So a really successful way to kind of see this out. Still has 7 minutes to go and some change. And in reality, that's another 20-plus laps to go before this race can end, which is kind of crazy, right? You got to go through all 4 corners 20 more times, and it feels like there's still chaos that can happen at any moment.
Yeah, think about the amount of drama we've had in this race and realize the fact that we're not even at the end of the first race of the evening. So a lot of actions to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, not just from the show, not just from this season, but pretty much every single week, nearly every single day here on SMB. Gives you a darn good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. But with that plug about as slick as 80 grit sandpaper, jump back to this battle that is really starting to cook up with Michelle Squire and Chester Guidry, the first non-pro driver to start a race this season from the pole position, start a first race this season from the pole position. Of course, with the field inverse, that definitely changes things a lot. But Guidry breaking up the dominance that we have seen from Mike Dam in qualifying to be able to grab that pole. And as Dam still struggles and may feel some pressure sooner rather than later for fourth, as Mike Dam has about 7 seconds a gap to himself and Ryan Cobb. If he has some more scrapes against the wall, that gap could diminish. But Michelle Squire and Chester Guidry may be having their own tango for the race lead up in the front here soon.
All right, well, with just a few minutes to go, we might still see some crazy action to come in this race, and we still might see some more traffic being a factor before this race does reach its crescendo points. Ryan Cobb currently in P4 right now, trying to make it into, well, can't really make it into the podium, 8 seconds back of a podium spot right here, but at least trying to hold off the any challengers in behind. But it is a lonely moment for Cobb in fourth. Yes, has some company around, but this is not for position.
Yeah, so right now, Ryan Cobb having some company, but I don't think it's the company that he would probably have in mind as he still runs around the racetrack, just trying to whittle the laps away and get to the end. Still a darn good drive for him as he looks like he's on track for a P4 finish overall and P3 in that pro category. Very nice to see him out there on the racetrack and running strong. So too with Jeff Jacobs, who may have his own battle with Neil Weston here soon. That will be the battle for second in the AM category and P7 overall, as Chester Guidry well farther up in front, closing in that gap now to about a half a second between himself and Michelle Squire, slotted in that race lead still. I think we could very much so have a move from Guidry sooner rather than later as he's closed up that gap, not from a half a second, down now to nearly a quarter of a second at times. Look at those two cars, only about, what do you say, probably about 3 or 4 car lengths between them?
Yeah, something like that. Not too much right now separating Chester Guidry and Michelle Squire. Look at this, a small little lunge down to the bottom, not working there for Guidry, but a really good double apex right there, gets some speed. Oh, has to counter correct it just a tad with under 4 minutes to go here, way deep into the corner. We've got a race.
Less than 4 minutes left to go, less than 0.4 of a second the gap. Look at that, nearly about 1/10 of a second as they head their way downtown to 3 and 4. Guidry trying to do everything that he can to jump into that top spot. Michelle Squire trying to hold on to it for dear life. You can see those two chasing each other's tails as they head their way into 1 and 2. Not able to get the move done though for Guidry as he looks for it on the outside, trying to get the run onto the back straightaway, touching the wall too as well. Guidry, you can see him sawing at that wheel, trying to find any way in the book to get past the 75. He's now going to take another run there. Look at this. This is defense and offense put on full display as you got Michelle Squire driving the widest Ferrari challenge car in the world, and Guidry trying to muscle his way past it. He's got it done around the outside.
Wow, yeah, I'm kind of confused why Squire kind of let the door open up on the outside. I mean, I know that Squire would have been hit by Guidry, but at least she would have been able to restrict that momentum that Chester Guidry gathered up down the front stretch about a lap and a half ago. Nonetheless, what a drive from Guidry right there. Now it's up to Squirick to try and chase him down. I just don't know if she has what it takes with 3.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, can Michelle Squire get this move done? We'll have to find out as we get closer and closer to the end. Meanwhile, as we are keeping our eyes focused on that drama up towards the front, there was a swap-a-roo between two AM drivers. That was Neil Weston getting overtaken by Jeff Jacobs. Pretty convincing move from the driver of the number 38 car as he headed his way through turns number 1 and 2. And now we have the same shoes on different feet as Michelle Squire now going to be the one engaging this chase down between herself and Chester Guidry, holding on to that top spot. If Guidry can hang on, not only would it be his 7th AM win thus far this season, it would also be the first time that we have had an overall winner be a non-pro racer.
Wow. Yeah, that would be a pretty awesome way to kind of cap off race number 1 here at IRP. It would be really cool. You know, a weird kind of racetrack for these race cars, and a first-time AM class winner would be absolutely cool as heck. The sun has reappeared. The track temperature, it's crazy how much it has varied today in race number 1. But we went from 80 degrees to now 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So a little bit more tire wear, but it's not really going to matter here with a minute to go and around 3 laps.
Hey, we've got heat out there on the racetrack. In terms of the battling, that's bringing the heat to the racetrack itself, just in terms of the asphalt temperature. You'll love to see it. You'll love to see it indeed. But Michelle Squire trying to bring up the heat as we get to the very end. I believe now got to be 2 laps left to go here at IRP. For Chester Guidry looking to hang on as Squire once again losing out on some pace. That gap growing and ballooning out from over a half a second, nearly to a full second. I saw that go to nearly 9/10, and it is continuing to grow. Guidry driving off into the sunset, but he's going to see one color, and that will be the white flag. One more lap of racing action here at IRP for race number 1 of the night, and Chester Guidry looking to try and convert a pole to a win in the first race of the night, and not only secure another AM win, but become the first non-pro racer to win a race overall here in season 1 of the Xtreme Motorsports Ferrari Road Oval Challenge. As Guidry comes to the line, it is AM victory in race 1 here, and that's Chester Guidry's triumph.
I have some incredible news for you. Besides this battle we've got right here between Mulholland and Cobb. Cobb cannot get it done on the outside. Looks like those are most of the battles complete. But look who finished 10th.
Oh, Joe Nagy came back.
Well, mostly helped by a problem with Casey Knight's race. But Joe Nagy, from just staying out there, making some laps, will now get pole position in race number 2. How about that?
Yeah, how about them apples? That's a nice recovery and all of that. And we'll be able to take a look at that starting grid in a couple of minutes. Now, however, we do have a warm-up. So let's take a look at those Heat 1 results. I think we'll spread this out a little bit more evenly this time because I'm feeling a little bit bad for the other situation I put yourself in, Dylan, during the first race, just taking a look at the back row. But Chester Guidry is your race winner, winning it by 1.1 seconds at the end between himself and Michelle Squire, slotted in P2. Mike Dam completes your podium in 3rd. Ryan Cobb will finish in 4th, with Jake Mackey and Sean Mulholland, your 2 drivers in the silver category, rounding out your first half of the field.
And the second half will be Jeff Jacobs in P7, with Neil Weston rounding out the drivers that were 1 lap down. Aaron Sunday finishes in 9th, 3 laps down. Joe Nagy recovers to get a top 10 and the invert pole position, but he is 6 laps down from an earlier incident in today's race number 1. Casey Knight finishes in 11th. Keith Stein did not take to the track. 83 laps run in this race. So guess what? 83 laps down. That was a lot more even. I appreciate you, Ron.
Yeah, I think that that spread out quite well. It was like warm butter on a piece of hot bread.
Man,
anyways,
that sounds lovely.
Yeah, that does sound very, very nice. Yeah, the other day I actually went to a grocery store and I got this everything sourdough bread.
Yes, tell me
All
more.
the everything seasoning. It was at a grocery store right outside the city of Philadelphia, Mom's Organic Grocery Mart. It was it's a
Hmm.
find where it was because I know at the core of it all, even though I know you're down south, I believe still,
Yes.
Dylan, you are at your core also a Philly
Oh
boy.
yes. Oh
So
yes.
if I name drop some of the areas, I think you may be able to recognize it. Is right
Indeed.
outside the county and right outside the city of Philadelphia, in the county as we like to call it, and we always like to have some fun there. But I'm actually going to pass the mic off to you, Dylan, because we do have a driver looking to have a chat with us, and it is XMS admin, all around very nice guy, and someone who's been with me in my own personal karting adventures and got me started in broadcasting many moons ago. Jeff Jacobs is up there in the interview waiting area, so I'll let you have a chat with him after what was a pretty topsy-turvy but still very successful first race for him.
Yeah, Jeff Jacobs, you got a copy?
Hey there, sure do. Yeah.
Jeff, that was a heck of a entertaining race for you. You had a lot of things to go through. Just take us through it.
You know, so this is our first time, obviously, doing this, and so that was really interesting. Everybody kind of learning on the fly there, but it was interesting when we got into traffic. The handling of the car, would change, and if you could get tucked up behind the car behind you, you'd start to see the back of their car, sliding around until the tires would overheat, and I think that's why you saw a lot of folks, start to go into those drifts, but. Also, as you got closer and closer, your car would start to understeer, and so you would then probably see people understeer right out, into the wall at corner exit. And when you're right up behind that car ahead of you, you really can't see, that outside wall as well. So yeah, it was sort of trying to keep the glancing blows to as few as possible. But that made it a fun challenge. I was pretty much laughing the entire time.
Yeah, it seemed like we always see at IRP in, I guess you could say, normal races at IRP, aka stock car races. We sometimes see drivers try and get those left sides onto that lower groove that has very minimal banking to kind of de-wedge the car, get it to turn a little bit more. But I feel like with how aero-dependent these Ferraris are, you sometimes run into issues where getting that car a little bit de-wedged, maybe the left side's on the flatter part, can make it the back end way more susceptible to just being lost. So is that what you felt a lot?
Yep, exactly right. I was trying to play with some different lines down in there, and even going down and just like brushing that grass a little bit, see if that would rotate the car. But I don't know, it just wasn't consistent. Trying to do it that way. And sometimes you got a good result. There was one time I pulled that off, and I actually passed two people, on the inside at the same time. But the tires didn't like that very much, so you couldn't do that very many times.
Yeah, I absolutely saw that, noticed that throughout the course of the race here. So, all right, so we've got race 2. It's due in very short order. What are you hoping for from this one? What have you learned?
I think I'm starting 4th this time because we invert the grid here for race number 2. So we'll see how many spots I can hang on to up there at the pointy end.
Well, best of luck. Always a pleasure. I know Ron was very excited to have you up in the booth between race 1 and 2.
Yeah, no, sounds good. And of course, we're looking forward to finishing up our season. We got Okayama Long next, which is a fun one. I enjoy racing there. And then, let's see, we finish the season at Indy Road, so that'll be a good one as well.
It's going to be a blast. Excited to see what race 2 has for us. Best of luck, Jeff.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Always fun to talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff Jacobs, Ron.
Yeah, we'll always love to see it. I'll always love to see Jeff in the booth. And we're not having Bobby Childs here this week, unfortunately. That's a bit of a shame, but I'm sure we'll see Bobby out on track between now and the end of the season. Let's take a look at the starting grid for race number 2 here tonight at IRP. And it's going to be Joe Nagy, the Canadian behind the wheel of that 37 car, looking to stake his claim on a good result after some disappointment in race number 1. Going to start this race from the pole. Aaron Sunday will join him on the front row. Neil Weston will start in 3rd with Jeff Jacobs, who we just had a chat with, lining up alongside in 4th. And that's going to be Sean Mulholland and Jake Mackey completing an all-silver road number 3.
And going from 7th on back, we've got Ryan Cobb and Mike Dam in row number 4. Michelle Squirick and Chester Guidry, we'll see how those two will be able to slice and dice their way through the field. Will it be treacherous? I would imagine just a tad. Casey Knight will start in 11th. Keith Stein. I don't think Keith is with us in race number 2 either, so Casey Knight in the final row.
You know what I should have done is I should have done that as a full split in the middle. If I knew we had 11 cars, I should have just ended it by saying Jake. Not even say Jake Mackey, just Jake. And then you can go on from there. 5.5 drivers right down the middle. That's how it works. Equal distribution or something like that. But no, I think there's going to be a rather hectic race. We usually see in these events, race 1 is usually tame. Race 2 can be a little bit hectic, or sometimes the inverse can be true. And race 1 will usually be the hectic one, while race 2 is tame. Race 1 was rather calm here at IRP. But as the track heats up and these racers want to get some good results at the end of the season, keep an eye on the level of aggression throughout it here in race number 2 at IRP, as a green flag is gonna fly now and the drivers are on their way. We're racing here, and look at Watson already trying to battle.
Yeah, this is already becoming a heck of a race. 3 wide on the exit of 2. We'll see if there's any contact falling on the outside. Can't quite see who that is, but my oh my. Oh, Aaron Sunday gets loose. Gets into the wall, so far saves it, lots of damage, but no extracurricular contact with anybody else.
Yeah, it keeps it going on the racetrack, but certainly without damage, maybe, potentially. I think that was a pretty big hit into the wall. He may be having to come down pit lane sooner rather than later, or at least try and get his bearing straight with a slightly wounded race car right at the drop of the green flag. We ride on board with Chester Guidry, your race 1 winner here tonight, as he looks to try and scythe his way through the field. Meanwhile, a little bit farther up the road, Michelle Squire and Ryan Cobb looks like they've had a swapperoo. They're battling hard, as we also have Joe Nagy driving off into the sunset, as Neil Weston has slotted himself in 2nd after some aggressive racing right at the beginning.
Yeah, and Joe Nagy holding on to P1 right from the jump is very important. Yes, Neil Weston all over the rear of that Ferrari, but an impressive job from Nagy to go from what was a horrible race 1 to already a really solid opening minute and a half in race number 2. Jeff Jacobs trying to hold off the effort from Chester Guidry, who got tight mid-quarter up into the wall on the exit of the corner with a little bit of understeer, goes down to try and de-wedge that machine, loses some speed, and does get a position, though, on the inside.
And one interesting note about this scan of Indianapolis Raceway Park here on iRacing is the fact that coming out of the turns, the change from safer barrier to concrete is not smoothed out. It's not like it is at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where you have a pretty gradual transition from that into the concrete walls on the straightaways and the short chutes. Here, however, you can just see pretty abrupt. You just have safer barrier, then you have the regular concrete wall. And sometimes you can have a little bit of target fixation go on there. You're thinking, okay, I can run out a little bit wide, keep the momentum rolling, and then you're like, oh, well, that wall is still sticking out there. My rear just clipped it, and I'm now going nose first into the fence.
Yeah, and that's not fun. Not fun to go.
A lot of paperwork involved.
Yeah, no, there is a lot of paperwork involved, and then sometimes you got to call emergency services, and you know, it's not fun. It's not fun. We're talking about racing or the highways. What are we talking about again?
Life is a Highway. That was a good song. Look at that dive here from Chester Guidry as he tries to squabble with Jeff Jacobs. That's a battle for P2 in the AM category and P6 overall. And there we go. Guidry gonna jump his way up in that spot, as you can see him trying to shave the right-hand side of his race car on the concrete barrier as he headed his way into turn number 1. That was a slightly horrifying view. I think if we were even closer, we probably would have been able to tell you exactly what kind of paint was used against that concrete wall. Yeah.
You know, you couldn't even get a normal piece of paper in between them. It was that tight against the wall. Squirick underneath of Weston right there. She is going through this field at an incredibly quick pace and already is using up as much of the tires, asking as much from those tires as she can to try and jump up some more spots in the podium order. Ryan Cobb in 4th. Watching this battle, Weston still holding on to P2, but oh, they were side by side on the exit for just a moment.
It's still going to continue to fight it out. Look at how close these top three are with Ryan Cobb right in tow. Here we go. That's a move from Michelle Squire trying to jump into P2 overall over Neil Weston, your current leader in the AM category. That's going to give us another battle to talk about, that being in the AM class, as Weston got to lose out on some time to Guidry, who is slowly but surely reeling in these racers. But Weston fights back to the inside as they head their way off through 3 and 4. Isn't able to get that move done once again on Michelle Squire. Actually chokes himself up a little bit as here comes Ryan Cobb. He slides in front to jump his way up into 3rd.
Yeah, really impressive job from Ryan Cobb right there. And, you know, Cobb was able to kind of climb back into this podium battle because of the defense from Weston and Squirick taking a quite long, extended amount of time to get by Weston. So open the door up for Cobb. We'll see how long Cobb is able to stay in this battle up front. Chester Guidry, by the way, into P6. Let's take a look, Ron, at this replay right here. At the start, from Michelle Squirick's point of view, and a great jump.
Yeah, she scythed her way through the field, and you can see what it's like to be in the middle of a hornet's nest comprising entirely of Ferrari Challenge cars. Not very comfortable, I think, is the best way that we could describe it for Michelle Squirick, as you can see her hugging that inside line, pretty much the flat part of the inside of the turn, but Michelle Squirick using it to full effect as she got a move done on Jeff Jacobs, heading down into turn number 1, had 2 cars going side by side right in front of her, 2 cars going side by side a little bit farther up the road. It's worked out well for her as she's slotted at the moment in P2 as trying to apply some pressure to Joe Nagy. Meanwhile, in the meantime, there has been a black flag for Casey Knight, so she drops out of this race in the number 36 car, slotted in 11th at the moment. But Michelle Squirick gonna try and make that move stick on Joe Nagy. Here they go, not able to get that move done to 1 and 2, but she fights back once again to 3 and 4. Maybe a little bit of ruffling of the feathers, and look at Ryan Cobb. He is there to pounce in case these two come to blows.
A little bit of argy-bargy at IRP right here. Ryan Cobb watching, trying to get some extra gains from these two battling side by side down this backstretch, going into 6 minutes, 20 seconds and some change into this race so far. And still the two drivers in the front make contact. Oh, Squirick, a little bit of understeer and sent Nagy into that wall.
Yeah, that was ugly as they headed their way onto the start-finish straightaway around a bumper cars with multi-million-dollar Ferrari Challenge machines. Look at Ryan Cobb. He's going to try and pull around the outside of Squirick. Here they go. He's got to swap back potentially. Maybe thinks about down the inside into 1 and 2. Nope, he thought better of it. He backs out. Meanwhile, Chester Guidry and Neil Weston. That's a battle for P5 overall and the lead in M. And Guidry, your race 1 winner, going to be able to scythe his way fully back through the rest of his AM competitors, and now just has a sea of pro racers right in front. Joe Nagy, who's looking to try and be on the redemption arc after a disappointing race number 1. Michelle Squire came oh so close to Chester Guidry at the end of that race, but wasn't able to get the win over Guidry. Ryan Cobb, who's really shown some good pace here tonight, and Mike Dam, who finished that first race on the podium despite having a bent rear tolling. Saw some photos after the race was said and done that he posted, and man, the back end of that car was really squirrely, so the fact he was able to hold on a good result really shows that Mike Dam has some confidence here at IRP. But our main attention is still on this Nagy and Squirick fight, as it looks like we're gonna have it flare up once again.
Yeah, that was quite remarkable bits of racing. I always love race 2. We always have those inverted field drama points, and that's exactly what we've seen and what we're seeing still as Joe Nagy holds it steady on the outside. Squirick, though, was right alongside, still stays alongside on corner entry in turn number 3. I mean, I'll tell you what, Joe Nagy is not going to go to that good night quietly. And Ryan Cobb makes a little peek down the inside of Squirick.
Yeah, I think Ryan Cobb is smelling a little bit of blood in the water in that pack-up and para performance car. He has got some speed in that 51 machine. Let's see what he can do here. I think he has a darn good shot to walk away from this race with a solid result indeed. But he finds himself in the midst of a hornet's nest. Contact made against the fence as he headed his way into 1 and 2. Could see the sparks flying in that rear view camera as the sparks flying in that battle right in front. Joe Nagy and Michelle Squire covered by inches as they head their way into turn number 3 and 4. That's nearly contact. That could have ended in tears. Squire still fighting down on that inside line.
Wow.
Nagy just keeping that momentum rolling though.
Man, I'm really impressed with Joe Nagy's ability right here to hold it steady on the outside, but gets into the wall. This might open the door just a tad for Squire, but no, not at all. Squire was unable to get alongside on entry into 3. Top 5 under a twin-size blanket right here. Unbelievable stuff.
Oh, contact made between Ryan Cobb and Michelle Squire, and that will be game, set, match for Michelle Squire. Huge impact into that inside wall. I'm surprised we haven't had a yellow because she is still slow out there. I think she has got back up and rolling, but certainly some huge damage on that car. Meanwhile, Chester Guidry has got involved in that fight. Look at him now going side by side with Mike Dam. That's a battle for the final podium spot overall, and through into P3 goes Guidry, but he runs up against the fence. Contact made. He goes for a half spin. They got back up and rolling, but allows those front two now of Joe Nagy and Ryan Cobb to drive away.
Ron, that was a really hard hit for Chester Guidry right there. We'll see if he has sustained any massive damage to that machine. What a ridiculous turn of events we've had over the course of the last 2 laps. I'm very excited to watch that replay because if you have ever seen an accordion happen on the highway where everyone gets bunched up very quickly, I think that's exactly what we saw. Squirick tried to go right in the middle of 2 cars that were 1 car length away from each other. I don't think the gap was necessarily there, and we'll have to get more replays because, yeah, this is going to be a perfect look. Loses some speed. So does Nagy. I mean, yeah, it's just an all-out sandwich. Like, I feel like that's more of a racing incident than anything. I know, I know that it is the responsibility of the car behind to pass safely, but it was just kind of one of those things where you have 3 cars legitimately in an accordion, in a sandwich. There's not much you can do.
And, seeing that coming together as they headed their way onto the start-finish straightaway out of 4, it reminds me of an interesting series that ran here at IRP many, many moons ago. Gotta hold off on that point, as here was a move that Ryan Cobb put on Joe Nagy. That was really tense between those two. It looked like there was nearly going to be contact, but Cobb kept it clean, got that move done down the inside, off into turn number 1, and he's now jumped into P1 in that number 51 car. But it's not done yet, as Mike Dam, who's currently holding on to the fast lap of the race at a 20.9. He's still got that worry of that car right behind, as Dam currently slotted in 3rd, and the number 93 machine has Joe Nagy right in front, and then he'd have an unobstructed view of that top spot. But to get back to the point that I was going to raise, that incident that we saw involving Ryan Cobb and Michelle Squire coming out of turn number 4 kind of reminded me of a rather obscure series that raced here many, many moons ago. It was the Fastmasters series. Basically, imagine IROC or like a seniors tour for golf, but with race cars. They're running modified Jaguar XJ220s here, and there was a pretty big collision as they had their way onto the start-finish straightaway. Actually knocked down the old Victory Lane arch that they had on that start-finish straightaway right against the pit wall. If anyone ever sees NASCAR Man documentary on that series, absolutely fantastic. They actually have the old Fastmasters trophy inside the main office of IRP that I've actually been to in real life, and funnily enough, kind of fitting with that series and millions of dollars worth of expensive Jaguar getting worn up in that series. Even the trophy is a little bit cracked up as we take a look at some drivers maybe cracking up their cars. I think Mike Dam may have got a move done on Joe Nagy, and yes, he did.
Yeah, quite the impressive move right there from Mike Dam, and here's another replay. Nagy up into the wall. Dam is able to kind of double apex it, hit that low mark in turn 2. Nagy hits the wall again down that backstretch, and that is position gained right there for the driver of the 93. You know what's funny? We're talking about IRP and the history here. The oval, it might not be and I don't think you could say the oval is what IRP is most known for. It's the drag strip, because they've got the U.S. Nationals just on the outside of the front stretch here. Every year in the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, it's one of it is the biggest drag racing event, I'd say, in the world, and it happens right behind where this camera is.
And a lot of the teams, of course, in IndyCar kind of goes without saying in the Indianapolis area, but a lot of NHRA teams are based around there as well. Tony Stewart Racing Shop is around there, and I know John Force has one of his 2 shops there, the other out in Southern California, being a Philly kid. And having actually been in the Indianapolis area, I have not been to Southern California. However, I think if I did, I'd probably have to take a trip off to Sim Racers Group that you can catch here on SMB as well. As here we go, that's Mike Dam trying to fight with Ryan Cobb as they head their way into 3 and 4. Cobb still holding on to that race lead, but this fight is gonna get intense as we get close and close to that halfway mark. Do have to think about the pit stops that will be coming up in the next 5 minutes, as that's a wall scrape from Ryan Cobb. Mike Dam gonna try and cut down to the inside. Here they go, the drag race as they head their way down the backstretch into 3 and 4. Ryan Cobb really feeling that pressure as that 51 car looks like he is running all over the racetrack, trying to find any way in the book to skedaddle out of the way and hold on to that race lead for as long as he can.
Yeah, I think Cobb went in a little bit deeper than Dam expected, and that led to both drivers getting into the wall, and that led to a swap of positions momentarily. Cobb tries to fight back on the outside. Dam looks to reassert his control as the leader here. These 2 drivers have been fighting for the last 5 or so laps. Kind of a new incoming battle for first place. I gotta say, Dam held the lead for half a lap there, but Cobb did a great job fighting back. I've got an interesting thought for you. Very interesting thought. Are you ready to hear it?
Well, let's hear it.
I don't think Michelle Squirick is out of his
No! Oh! And that's damage.
The side window, or the side mirror. No.
Oh, and that's damage for Cobb as well. He's coming down pit lane. Rear wing missing off of that race car. The number 51 with a huge sideways snap as he headed his way off into turn number 1 and 2, and that's going to bring him into pit lane. Thankfully, though, we are in that pit window, so it's not going to be game, set, match for Ryan Cobb. That is a big moment for him. They have to adjust his strategy, too, to try and cope with the worries of that. Right as you said that Michelle Squire wasn't entirely out of this race, she isn't. She is now going to get at least 1 spot maybe done, as she's currently battling with Neil Weston out there on the circuit. There she is, in fact, involved in that low hornet's nest with herself, Neil Weston, and Jeff Jacobs a little bit farther up the road. There's Ryan Cobb rejoining the race, now in 4th, and only 9.1 seconds stopped in pit lane 2. That is not a bad stop at all.
Yeah, not at all. And here's the other thing we've got to talk about, and you know, I know I mentioned Michelle Squirick as well. With that fast repair, and Squirick, the speed we've obviously seen from her, everyone's got a pit, right? So you would imagine this race might not be as over as we may have thought for the driver of the 75.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you bring up there. That is a very, very good point indeed. If we have a little bit of chaos, a little bit of craziness, Michelle Squire will at least be able to get a good result out of this race. The real question is, how will she finish in relationship to Mike Dam, as those two continue to try and duke it out for the championship here this season, and the first ever season of FROC here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. If you're enjoying this broadcast, I'm going to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. Josh perfectly on time with that graphic in the production truck. That right there is a mark of a true professional right there, ladies and gentlemen. As Chester Guidry has come down pit lane from the lead in AM.
Interesting. Okay, well, everybody's going to basically finish their pit stops very shortly. Joe Nagy and Mike Dam, P1 and P2, are the only drivers that have not stopped yet, which is so interesting. I'm fascinated by the way this race is playing out and the drama we still might have to come. By the way, here's another thing to keep note of. The track temperature is almost 90 degrees. That's a 10-degree difference from at points in race 1. It obviously, it's 91. It just saw 91 degrees right there. It obviously is a little bit different on these cars and these tires. The drivers may not be so used to the way that the cars are reacting to all of the energy being put on those right sides throughout the course of tonight's race. Just lots of unique things to note as we move to around 11 minutes remaining in this event.
Yeah, so getting closer and closer to the end, still have this racetrack evolving and developing. And that's going to keep these racers on their toes as well, as this is a fixed setup series. So these racers can't make their own setup changes to try and cope with the pain, for lack of a better term. They just have to try and put their nose to the grindstone and try and work it out themselves. We look at a battle here that's involving Jeff Jacobs. This is the battle at the moment for P7 in the AM category, as these two racers covered by just about nothing. That's Mike Dam now coming down pit lane from the lead overall. He's going to give it to Joe Nagy, who stays out for yet another lap. Will probably come down pit lane next time. Been hearing the other number 20, minute 20 mark is usually when we're going to see everybody come down pit lane.
Yeah, and it looks like Mike Dam down pit lane right now, and Joe Nagy is the only driver that has yet to pit here. It's going to give us a really good inclination of where this race could potentially play out. And what I'm seeing is Michelle Squirick is 4 seconds back of Ryan Cobb, who's a second back of Mike Dam. This race, I think, has a few more twists and turns we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, there's still a lot of stuff that can go on between now and the end. We're just waiting to see what sort of rabbit hole we'll have to go down next. Whether it's going to be, I don't know, maybe a silver class driver winning this race. We've already seen an AM class winner in race number 1. Not sure what happened to my throat there. That sounded deeply unpleasant, because it was. Chester Guidry leading in AM, Jake Mackey leading in silver, as Joe Nagy still holds on to that top spot. I'm not sure what that car is powered with at the moment, because he is still out there on the circuit. I'm not sure whether that car is powered fittingly with milk, considering it is a white car, or what the deal may be. That 37 car pretty much just running on a hope and a prayer, as I think he is now coming down pit lane.
Yeah, that was a lengthy amount of time to stay out on the track before coming down pit lane here. Almost 21 minutes before making that left-hand duck down into the turn 3 pit entry. Oh! Nagy thought, was that Nagy just trying to cut down the amount of time coming down pit lane, or that was quite strange. I think that it didn't work. I think you can run down through all of the pit boxes here and not get penalized as per the rules, but I wonder if there was a bit of fear that ghosting in pit lane in the specific pit boxes was not on. Sometimes I can catch drivers out, which is why Nagy had to come out to the right and back down to the left, but wasted at least a tenth or so in doing so.
And it's cost him badly. He's picked up a black flag on pit lane, which is why he is still stopped right now. I wonder if that was potentially for a pit entry, hearing from Mr. Joshua Wilkie in the production truck. That may have been a speeding penalty. Could maybe have been down to shaving it a little bit too close on entry. Let's take a look to find out. You'll be able to see pretty much roughly how fast this car was going here. The other pit lane speed line does come out of absolutely nowhere with the bumps, and yeah, that was definitely a bit of an overkill.
Yeah, so that is a race over for sure right there, at least in the opportunity to win this race for Joe Nagy. What a turn that could have been, starting being in 11th for pretty much the entirety of race 1, just barely getting into 10th, got that invert pole position, fought so hard to keep Michelle Squirick from taking the lead of this race, fought hard against Mike Dam, against Ryan Cobb, and the thing that gets him is speeding on pit entry. It's his own fault, as Guidry is trying to make some more moves up through the field right here, currently in P4. Jake Mackey up in front.
So right now we've got a good little battle going on right now as Guidry gonna take the run. That was pretty quick and through into P3 he is gonna go. Chester Guidry having a darn good drive here tonight at IRP, was able to get that race 1 win, and after starting a little bit farther behind as a result of the field invert for race 2, he has done very well for himself, holding on to a spot, and he may be able to get one more. As look at Ryan Cobb right there in front. Meanwhile, a little bit farther up the road, Mike Dam on track for a victory. If he can just hang on here, 3.5 seconds is the gap between himself and Cobb. And as much as Cobb would want to jump into that spot, I think Ryan Cobb has to worry more so about Chester Guidry than he is worrying about Mike Dam at the present moment.
Yeah, just a tad right here for what Mike Dam's worries have to be. So we're looking at the gaps. Squirick 8 seconds back. I feel like that is a little bit too much to be able to chase down Mike Dam. If Dam runs into issues, Ryan Cobb currently 4 seconds back. I don't know if Cobb's going to be able to catch up. Chester Guidry trying to get down the inside of Jake Mackey. And this is for a podium spot. Still side by side. Guidry. I mean, you have to imagine that that's not the way to do it. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. That's a bit of netcode right there that played into it. Let's take a look at the replay here. And Guidry definitely went in a little bit deep. There's a little bit of netcode, but I still think he would have made contact even without the netcode, just based on the rate of speed on corner entry right there. So Guidry might have to do a little bit of apologizing potentially after this race to Jake Mackey. Mackey still in 5th place, obviously has some damage from that. Nonetheless, top 3 right now, Mike Dam, Ryan Cobb, and Chester Guidry, and Jake Mackey has to go down pit lane. That, I think, is race over for the driver of the 199 machine.
Yeah, thankfully for Jake Mackey, because of some drama with Sean Mulholland a little bit earlier on, he is going to be winning in silver category no matter what, unless Mulholland can somehow gain 43 laps in the span of, well, that'd be about 4 minutes. I don't think that can be done, even at a land speed record car, so you can kind of take that as is. I think everybody is pretty much spread out here, more or less. I think a battle may be flaring up with Joe Nagy and Aaron Sunday. That'll be a battle for 11th currently, as those two cars are covered by about a second, as they do actually have Chester Guidry in between them, so he will be a bit of a mediator, for lack of a better term, in that battle. As Michelle Squire, nice recovery drive from her to finish in 4th. I think we could best describe this as damage control.
Yeah, a really, really solid job. And I feel like, again, it was a racing incident. What happened to lead to Squirick having to pit early, have the damage that she garnered earlier in this race. And even if it's just an outside of the podium spots type of day, type of finish in race number 2 for Squirick, I think she can be very proud of the way that these two races kind of shaped up, with the 2nd and potentially a 4th place finish here. I will say the battle is not over yet for the podium, only around 2 seconds back, 2.5 seconds back of a podium spot, with around 9 laps to go in this race. So still time for something to change, but that time is starting to really come down. And this is a battle right here. Still, Chester Guidry trying to hold off a few more drivers in this race. Guidry, of course, on that podium spot, and is just going to let the lapped car go by. Couldn't quite tell who that lapped car was, but it was a thorn in the side of Guidry for a good bit. Is it Joe Nagy? I believe you're right. Voice of God, Joshua Wilkie.
Yeah, there he is in that number 37 car. Nagy, that is, not Josh. Josh is in the production truck. We don't have a camera in there. We would be able to see his massive collections of maple syrup, though, which is a stunning view indeed. Some exquisite stuff in there. But Aaron Sunday running in P7. He's running a race kind of all by his lonesome, as Joe Nagy will maybe try and battle out with him as we get to the end. But up at the front, Mike Dam putting that car on rails in that number 93. 93 car, it felt like quite a while in between victories, and that's because it was able to capture the win in the opening race of the season at Sebring in September, and then it took him until the last round of the championship just 2 weeks ago at Le Mans for him to visit victory lane once more. Mike Dam now going to try and make it another win, his third win in the past few races. So that'd be a pretty good day for Mike Dam, and that would certainly stake his claim on this season championship here in FROC.
Yeah, a really, really solid drive from Mike Dam. Kind of a spotless race for the driver in the 93. I bet you Mike Dam also has a very solid maple syrup collection.
Mayhaps, may possibly. I think is the best way that I could sum that up. Maybe.
Did you just try and go with a French-Canadian accent?
I did not, no. That was just me kind of speaking in my slightly questioning voice, and you can tell that did its toll just based off the fact I had a pretty catastrophic voice crack a couple of moments ago. If I tried to do that, it would probably not go well. Meanwhile, Michelle Squire trying to get a move done on Chester Guidry. That may be a swap-a-roo for P3 in this race. Guidry on track for another AM win this season. Michelle Squire running in third in the pro category. Mike Dam about to start the final lap of the race. Meanwhile, as Squire still on the inside of Chester Guidry as they head their way down the backstretch downtown into 3 and 4. Who's going to win out in this battle? It is going to be close for sure with only 20 seconds left to go on the clock, though we are going to be seeing the white flag this time by for Mike Dam to try and seal the deal on a victory. Oh, and that's a big wiggle. Up and along goes Chester Guidry. Deja vu to what happened earlier on with himself and Jake Mackey. Meanwhile, Mike Dam about to start the final lap. He has done now. Heads his way off through 1 and 2 in that number 93 car. Was able to get a second win only 2 weeks ago at Le Mans, but now wants to try and stake his claim on this championship. If he can come across the line, I think he'll have one hand on that trophy already. Mike Dam going to complete a dominating drive here in race number 2 at IRP to win it here.
This race, quite fascinating in the way it played out. Ryan Cobb and Michelle Squirick does get that podium position. So a second and a third, I'd say Squirick is one of the big winners from tonight's action. Let's take a look at the replay. I think Guidry just went in too hot.
Is it a case of deja vu here? I think it may be a case of deja vu. Just carried a whole lot of speed heading down in there, lost the back end, and once again, the barriers learning to be a pretty troublesome one for these racers. We were expecting the barriers to have some marks, and I think they definitely got their war wounds here today, Dylan.
Yeah, I think every driver kind of got that short track racing experience right here. It was definitely one of those nights where you don't always see all of the contact happen for any GT3 or sports car machine, and that's exactly what we saw here tonight at the short oval, just 15 or 20 minutes away from Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, what a wonderful part of the country that is. I'm definitely not biased because I'm an IndyCar guy. I think we'll take a look at the results here, though, in a couple of moments' time to run through the finishing order here in race number 2 of the season. Now only going to have 4 races left to go in this season of FROC competition on slow motion broadcasting. But if you want to stay tuned for all of it, you can by hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of it. Here are your results, though. Mike Dam is your race winner. Ryan Cobb comes home in P2 about 7 seconds back. Michelle Squire will round out your podium in 3rd, and that's going to be Chester Guidry finishing this race in 4th, winning it in the AM category once again. Neil Weston will finish in 5th, with Jeff Jacobs completing your first half of the field.
And Joe Nagy finishes in 7th. An okay recovery for him. The first car, not on the lead lap, 2 laps down. Aaron Sunday, also 2 laps down, and everybody else has a lot of problems. Jake Mackey, Sean Mulholland, Casey Knight rounding out your 11-car field. And hey, another 83-lap race. We had 166 laps of racing here tonight.
An awesome night of racing action, I gotta say, here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. These Ferrari Challenge cars, unique cars on iRacing, but I think they put on some absolutely amazing racing. But let's get the interviews up and rolling, and we're gonna start off a little bit unusually. We usually start with the pro drivers, but I think we're gonna start with our AM winner in both races and our overall winner in race number 1, Chester Guidry, now joining us here in the broadcast booth. Chester, welcome in. Congratulations on 2 more AM wins, but more importantly, congratulations on the overall win at race 1 here tonight. How was it at IRP?
Well, I'm taking a sip of water and trying to catch my breath. That was a very overwhelming race, and got to send out an apology to Jake Mackey. You know, Mike Dam and I in the second race got into the wall, and I think it hurt my car. The right rear kept trying to step out on me and spin out, and you know, I was trying to do too much, and I think I might have got into Jake and knocked him out of the race. So Jake, if you're watching, man, sorry, I'm gonna own that one. Didn't mean to do that, but it was a lot of fun. You know, the first race with Michelle, we had a really great battle for like the first half of the race. She finally cleared me and kind of checked out, and at that point I thought it was, you know, she had it in the bag. We came to pit road, got fuel, came back out, and I think that diamond line that I was running kind of helped me conserve my tires a little bit, and I was able to run her back down, and we had a really great battle. So props to Michelle. That was a lot of fun, and yeah, I just couldn't keep it together in that second race.
Yeah, but still, man, it's a pretty darn good night in the cockpit for you, walking away with 2 more AM wins and really hitting the ground running throughout. I want to ask you about your thoughts on this track. You said right at the start of this interview, just trying to catch your breath. I can imagine it was pretty much just an endless assault out there on the racetrack.
It was. The car is wicked here, and so it's right on the razor edge. The line that I was driving, you know, you have to be very careful under braking, and then when you get in traffic, that diamond line's not always available to you. So to go from running the diamond line lap after lap to trying something different cold for the first time in traffic, it's hair-raising.
Yeah, I think hair-raising may be the word of the night, certainly from our perspective in the broadcast booth, and most certainly from you and the rest of the field's perspective behind the wheel. I want to ask you, though, about the next round of the championship as we swap off this bumpy old-school oval for the winding bends of Okayama in Japan next time out. Another pretty abrupt transition from one racetrack to another, so what are your thoughts heading there in 2 weeks' time?
Honestly, guys, I've never laid eyes on Okayama. I'm going to have to get to work and try to learn the track quickly, because I'm enjoying the success that we've had so far this season, and we want to keep that on a roll. So we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to maybe put together a ski trip to Japan next year, so I'll try to maybe put this on the agenda to go take a look at this track in person.
Yeah, I will warn you and say that I've heard that it's in the middle of absolutely nowhere, which, considering Japan is one of the most densely populated countries in the world, that is really saying something. But hope you do get the opportunity to go on that ski trip, and hope you have a good race at Okayama next time at Chester. But before we let you go and celebrate the wins here, we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs.
Yeah, thanks to Slow Motion Broadcasting for the good show that you guys always put on. I really enjoy watching the replay back. Thanks to my friends and family that watch the events here, my wife Ashley, and of course my teammates with HTPK, Neil, Lloyd, and Brett. So that's it.
And thank you for the kind words, man. Thank you for joining us here in the booth. Congratulations on the 2 wins, including that overall win earlier, and looking forward to seeing you out there at Okayama for round number 6 of this season.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
And that right there was Chester Guidry, our AM winner in both of the races here tonight. And Dylan, I'll pass the mic back off to you and ask who you want to have a chat with.
Let us talk to the winner from tonight's race number 2, and that is Mike Dam. And Mike, a solid race number 2 for you. Other than the beginning where it felt like everybody was right under a blanket, you were very, very much out in the clear once that second half of the race got going. Just take us through what it was like to drive these Ferrari machines around a short oval like IRP.
It was very weird. Very tiring, I'll say. The force feedback was very strong. And I'm not a big oval guy. I don't do much of it, but I thought it was pretty fun.
Well, it seemed fun. It was fun to talk about. It was fun to watch, but I'm sure that the G-forces experienced if you were actually behind the wheel in real life with these cars would be unbelievable here at IRP, especially with all of the downforce that you get going around these corners here. We definitely saw a lot of argy-bargy happening. Was there a preferred line throughout this race, or was it really just wherever the traffic was, you would just try and kind of hit your marks as best you could and gain momentum down the straights?
Yeah, I think the preferred line was to go pretty far out, and then kind of come in and get the run out. Obviously, with another car on the inside, it didn't really always work out too well. So the solo line was kind of different than the pack racing line.
So, final question here, and I feel like the track temperature, it swung pretty wildly, 10 degrees throughout race 1 to race number 2. Did you feel that and how the car handled?
Oh, not too bad. It was mostly towards the end of the races. It was just my arms are getting tired. That was mostly what I felt, but no, it was pretty good. It was a good experience. I think it was pretty clean for what it was, and so yeah, it was fun.
Totally fair there. All right, Mike. Well, congratulations on the race number 2 result, and hopefully we will see you continue some success at Okayama in 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Ron, gonna pass it back to you.
Yeah, I think we have one more driver that we want to have a chat with here, and that is Michelle Squire, who, despite now walking away with a overall win, still had a pretty wild ride in this race. Michelle, welcome into the booth. It's a win in the pro category in race number 1 and a pretty wild run in race 2. So how was it at IRP tonight?
Well, it was definitely interesting, and given kind of my qualifying position and then also the inversion, it was always an elbows out kind of race.
Yeah, it definitely looked like that all throughout. It got physical at many points in time. I guess we can say it is some old school short track racing that we had throughout tonight. I want to ask you about the physicality of it all, because everybody that we've had a chat with thus far has kind of noted that this was just a tough race to try and handle, just trying to muscle the car around this racetrack.
Oh, absolutely. Like my shoulder is real sore. Gonna need to kind of relax that some. But the big thing is my left hand on this formula rim that I'm using. The index finger is really sore and tight. Have to get myself a nice little massage between race 1 and 2 on my hand. Otherwise, that would not have gone too well. I was kind of thinking, we have to do this whole thing again after race 1.
Yeah, that it definitely seemed like a bit of a workout throughout here. So I've never gone a hand massage myself, but I can imagine that was very helpful for the second half of tonight's action. Looking ahead though to next week, Okayama for round number 6 of the season, swapping out this bumpy old school oval for a rather technical road course. What are your thoughts heading to that track next time out?
Oh, ready to be back on familiar ground on a road course. I don't have a whole lot of experience around Okayama though, so there'll be a little bit of a learning experience, but I expect to see kind of some of the same familiar faces like Mike Dam up front there fighting with me. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to it as well from my perspective in the broadcast booth, and keeping our fingers crossed we'll have some good racing there as well. But Michelle, before we let you go and get some practice in for Okayama and maybe get another hand massage after the challenging nature of this race, we'll let you give a thanks or shout outs before we let you go.
First of all, I have to give you a shout out at Slow Motion Broadcasting for putting on this event. as well as XMS for, and particularly Bobby Childs for being the brainchild of this series. And special shout out to Casey Knight for race 2, was in the stands there being my spotter. So thank you. That helped me charge back up to a podium.
Yeah, there we go. I saw that in one of the SMB chats here on the Discord server. Just the shot of her in the grandstands. That was it got a nice little laugh at me. I wish we could have shared that on the air. But Michelle, thank you for joining us here in the booth. Well done on the other results here at IRP, and looking forward to seeing you out there at Okayama next time out.
Thank you.
Enjoying this race.
Thank you as well. That right there was Michelle Squark, the driver of the number 75 car and your P3 finisher here in race number 2 tonight. But Dylan, we are expecting some thunder, and we most certainly got it here at IRP. But Okayama next time out gonna be a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah, it's going to be very different. We kind of get back to where the bread and butter is for these machines, and it's on the rights and the lefts of international road courses. It was a lot of fun, though, getting to see these cars do the work that they did here at IRP. A lot of elbows out, argy-bargy, if you will. And it was a lot of fun to bring the action to you on slow motion broadcasting. Ron, tell us about what is next. If you still want some sim racing coverage, you can get it from SMB.
Oh yeah, we have got you covered pretty much every single day, it feels like. Got some more stuff to look forward to here tonight. Mr. Joshua, Wilkie, and I are going to be jumping out of the booth here in a couple of moments' time to bring you the action from the Sim Racers Group F3 Series. That's going to be at Watkins Glen. They're currently qualifying at the moment, which is slightly extended. They shuffled the sessions around, so qualifying is an hour long, which caught me out a little bit as I was loading in to get the production stuff set up, but you know, that's neither here nor there. Also have Ray Esports Club Racing League action that's going on at the present moment here on slow motion broadcasting as well. And then this weekend we've got 4 broadcasts for you. The Formula V Weekend Warriors going to be at Alton Park. The Formula Ford Weekend Warriors will be at Sonoma, with the Spec Racer Fords running at Road America in a very draft heavy race there. Also stay tuned to XSLR in the 10th round of their season as they head off to Sonoma on the Rallycross configuration. Sim Racers Group F4 action will be at Misano this upcoming Tuesday, along with SRG F3 being at Road Atlanta. And then the Formula Vs and Formula Fords are going to be at Okayama and Lebanon. Of course, next time out here in the Xtreme Motorsports Ferrari Road and Oval Challenge, you'll be able to catch the action at Okayama. 2 more 30-minute long races. You'll be able to see that broadcast on December the 3rd here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Check your local listings to know when that show starts, whatever time zone you may be. But after this broadcast here for round number 5 of the Ferrari Road and Oval Challenge here at IRP, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Dylan Coyle joining me in the commentary booth, and Joshua Wilkie working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting tonight, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.